My name is Amanda Nicole Patterson. I'm 38 years old, and on the afternoon of March 22nd, I died in my bedroom while folding laundry. I know that sounds crazy. One minute I was sorting my husband's work shirts, and the next minute I was gone. Just like that. My heart stopped beating, and everything went black. Before that day, I thought I had a pretty normal life. I worked as a school counselor at Jefferson Middle School. Been married to my husband Derek for 14 years. We had 2 kids, Caleb, who's 12, and Emma, who just turned 9. We lived in a 3-bedroom house with a mortgage we could barely afford, 2 car payments, and a dog named Buster who ate our shoes. I love my family, but I'll be honest with you. Our marriage was struggling. Derek and I barely talked anymore, except to argue about money or whose turn it was to pick up groceries. We were like 2 strangers living in the same house. I kept thinking things would get better, but they just kept getting worse. Some nights, I'd lie in bed wondering if this was all there was to life. The morning I died started like any other morning. Derek left for work without saying goodbye. The kids ate cereal for breakfast because I was too tired to make anything else. Emma complained about her math homework, and Caleb couldn't find his soccer cleats. Normal stuff. Around 2 in the afternoon, I was upstairs folding clothes. I remember picking up one of Derek's blue work shirts and feeling this sharp pain in my chest. It felt like someone was squeezing my heart with their fist. I dropped the shirt and grabbed the edge of the bed. Then the pain got worse. Much worse. It spread down my left arm and up into my jaw. I tried to call out, but no sound came. I couldn't breathe. The room started spinning, and I fell to the floor. That's when everything changed. I felt myself leaving my body. I know how that sounds, but it's the only way I can describe it. 1 second I was on the carpet, gasping for air, and the next second I was floating above myself, looking down. I could see my own body lying there, completely still. My face was blue and my eyes were closed. I wasn't scared though. That surprised me. I thought I would be terrified, but instead I felt this incredible peace. It was like being wrapped in the softest blanket you've ever felt, except the blanket was made of pure love. Then I heard this sound. It wasn't really music, but it wasn't voices either. It was something in between. Beautiful and perfect, and unlike anything I'd ever heard before. The sound seemed to be pulling me upward, away from my house, away from everything I knew. I found myself in this place that was full of light. Not bright like the sun that hurts your eyes, but warm and golden and welcoming. I looked around and saw what looked like a garden, but more beautiful than any garden on earth. The colours were so vivid they almost seemed alive. That's when I saw him. Jesus was walking toward me through the light. I knew it was him right away, even though he didn't look like any picture I'd ever seen in church. He was tall and strong, with kind eyes that seemed to see right through me. His hair was dark and wavy, and his skin had this warm olive tone. But what I remember most was his smile. It was the most loving smile I'd ever seen. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but powerful. It felt like coming home after being lost for years. "Amanda," he said. And when he said my name, I started crying. Not sad tears, but tears of joy. I felt more loved in that moment than I had in my entire life. "I've been waiting for you," he continued. "There's something I need to show you." I wanted to run to him, to hug him, but I couldn't move. I just stood there, overwhelmed by his presence. "Lord," I whispered, "I don't understand. Am I dead?" He smiled again. "Your body is dying, yes, but you have a choice to make. Before you decide, I want you to understand something important. Something about love and marriage and why so many couples are struggling right now." He reached out his hand to me. "Come, let me show you." The moment I took his hand, everything around us changed. We were still in that beautiful place, but now I could see things I hadn't noticed before. It was like he had opened my spiritual eyes. "Look," he said, pointing to what appeared to be a vast landscape below us. I looked down and saw thousands, maybe millions of married couples. They were in their homes, in their cars, at work, everywhere. But something was wrong. Around each couple I could see these dark threads, like spider webs wrapping around them. "What are those?" I asked. "Distractions," Jesus said. "In your time in 2025, the enemy has become very clever. He doesn't destroy marriages with big obvious attacks anymore. He uses 1,000 small distractions instead." As I watched, I could see what he meant. I saw a husband scrolling through his phone while his wife tried to talk to him about her day. I saw a wife so busy with work emails that she missed her husband's attempt to hold her hand during dinner. I saw couples sitting in the same room, but living in completely different worlds. "The phones," I said, understanding beginning to dawn on me. "The phones are just tools," Jesus replied. "But yes, they've become weapons against love. Look closer." I focused on one couple, and suddenly I could hear their thoughts. The husband was thinking about his fantasy football league, while his wife was talking about their daughter's problems at school. The wife was mentally planning her next social media post, while her husband was trying to share something important that happened at work. "They're not really listening to each other," I said. "No," Jesus said sadly. "They've forgotten how to be present with one another. They've forgotten that love requires attention." He showed me another couple. They were lying in bed, both staring at their phones instead of talking or touching or simply being together. "In the beginning," Jesus said, "I created marriage to be a picture of my love for the church, selfless, sacrificial, present, attentive. But look what it's become." I watched as the couple in bed finally put their phones down, but instead of connecting with each other, they just went to sleep. When was the last time they had really talked? When was the last time they had laughed together or shared their dreams, or even just looked into each other's eyes? "This is Derek and me," I whispered, my heart breaking. "This is exactly what we've become." Jesus nodded. The enemy doesn't need to make people cheat or fight or abuse each other anymore. All he has to do is keep them distracted, keep them busy, keep them from seeing each other. He showed me more scenes, a family at dinner, all four of them looking at screens instead of talking. A couple on a date, taking pictures of their food instead of enjoying the conversation. A husband and wife passing each other in the hallway without even making eye contact. "But it's not just the technology," Jesus continued. "It's the pace of life itself. Everyone is rushing, always rushing. Rushing to work, rushing to appointments, rushing to the next thing on their list. When do they stop to love?" I saw a wife trying to tell her husband about something that was bothering her, but he was already putting on his coat to leave for work. "Can we talk about this tonight?" he said. But that night he came home exhausted, and she was dealing with homework and dishes and getting the kids ready for bed. The conversation never happened. "They mean well," I said. "Of course they do," Jesus replied. "Most of these couples still love each other, but love without attention dies. Love without presence withers. Love without time together becomes just a memory." He showed me something that made me gasp. I could see the hearts of the married couples, and many of them were growing cold. Not because they wanted them to, but because they were starving. Starving for connection, for conversation, for simple presence. "What about prayer?" I asked. "Don't Christian couples pray together?" Jesus looked sad again. "Watch." I saw a Christian couple getting ready for bed. The husband said, "Should we pray?" The wife nodded. They held hands and prayed for 30 seconds about their day, their kids, their health. Then they said amen and rolled over to go to sleep. "That's not real prayer," I said, somehow understanding. "No," Jesus agreed. "Real prayer together requires vulnerability. It requires sharing your heart, not just your requests. It requires time and patience and the willingness to be seen." He showed me what prayer was supposed to look like between married couples. I saw a husband and wife sitting together, really talking to God and to each other, confessing their fears, their struggles, their hopes, taking time to listen, not just to God, but to each other's hearts. When couples pray together like this, Jesus said, I am there with them. My presence protects their marriage from the enemy's attacks. But most couples have forgotten how to be vulnerable, even with each other. I thought about Derek and me. When was the last time we had really prayed together? I mean really prayed, not just said a quick blessing over dinner. When was the last time I had told him my real fears, my real dreams? When was the last time he had shared his heart with me? We've become strangers, I whispered. Many couples have, Jesus said gently. But it doesn't have to stay that way. He showed me something beautiful then. I saw couples who had learned to fight back against the distractions. A husband who put his phone in a drawer every evening when he came home from work. A wife who created a no screens rule during dinner. Couples who took walks together without any devices, just talking and holding hands. I saw a couple who had started praying together every morning before work. Not just quick, surface prayers, but real conversation with God and with each other. They shared their concerns for their children, their struggles with money, their dreams for the future. They prayed for each other's hearts, not just their circumstances. This is what marriage was meant to be, Jesus said. Two people walking through life together, present with each other, supporting each other, growing together in love. I watched these couples, and I could see the difference. Their eyes were bright when they looked at each other. They laughed together. They touched each other gently throughout the day. They were building something beautiful together, instead of just surviving. But how? I asked. How do couples get back to this when they're so far apart? Jesus smiled. It starts with one person making a choice. One person deciding that their marriage is worth fighting for. One person putting down the distractions and saying, I want to really see you again. He showed me a wife who had been feeling disconnected from her husband for months. Instead of complaining or criticizing, she made a simple decision. She started putting her phone away when he came home from work. She started asking him real questions about his day, and actually listening to the answers. At first, her husband didn't know what to do with the attention. He was suspicious, wondering what she wanted. But after a few weeks, he started opening up. He began sharing things he hadn't talked about in years. Their connection slowly started to rebuild. Small changes, Jesus said. Simple choices, but they make all the difference. I saw another couple who had started taking a 10-minute walk together every evening after dinner. No phones, no kids, no distractions. Just walking and talking. In those 10 minutes each day, they began to remember why they had fallen in love in the first place. The enemy wants couples to believe that once love is lost, it can't be found again, Jesus said. But that's a lie. Love can always be rekindled if both people are willing to do the work. I thought about all the couples I knew who had gotten divorced in the past few years. Good people. People who had once been deeply in love. How many of their marriages could have been saved if they had understood what I was seeing now? What about forgiveness? I asked. Jesus' expression grew serious. Forgiveness is the foundation of every lasting marriage. But many couples today don't understand what real forgiveness looks like. He showed me a couple who had been hurt by each other's words and actions over the years. Small hurts mostly, but they had added up. Instead of dealing with each hurt as it came, they had let resentment build in their hearts. They say they forgive, Jesus said, but they keep bringing up past wounds. They use old hurts as weapons in new arguments. This isn't forgiveness. This is scorekeeping. I watched as the couple fought about something small, but within minutes they were bringing up things that had happened months or even years earlier. Each old wound reopened, each past mistake thrown in the other's face. True forgiveness, Jesus continued, means choosing to let go completely. Not bringing it up again. Not using it as ammunition. Not holding it over the other person's head. He showed me what this looked like. A husband who had been hurt by his wife's harsh words, choosing to truly forgive her, not just say the words. When she hurt him again in a similar way, he didn't say, "You always do this," or "Remember when you said." Instead, He addressed the current situation with love and grace. "This doesn't mean being a doormat," Jesus explained. "It means choosing love over being right. It means choosing the relationship over winning the argument." I saw couples who had learned this secret. When conflict arose, they focused on solving the problem, not on proving who was wrong. They spoke to each other with respect, even when they were angry. They listened to understand, not to defend themselves. "But what if one person is trying and the other isn't?" I asked, thinking of all the wives and husbands I knew who felt alone in their efforts to save their marriages. Jesus' eyes filled with compassion. "Love is always a risk. There's no guarantee that your efforts will be returned, but I see every act of love, every attempt to rebuild connection, every choice to forgive. And I can work with even the smallest amount of faith and love." He showed me a woman whose husband had emotionally checked out of their marriage. She could have given up, could have become bitter and resentful. Instead, she chose to love him well regardless of his response. She prayed for him daily, spoke kindly to him, supported his dreams, and treated him with respect, even when he didn't deserve it. It took almost a year, but slowly her husband's heart began to soften. He started noticing her efforts. He began to feel convicted about his own behavior. Eventually, he asked her to forgive him and committed to working on their marriage together. "Not every story ends this way," Jesus admitted. "Free will means that some people will choose to walk away, despite their spouse's best efforts. But many marriages that seem hopeless can be restored if at least one person is willing to love unconditionally." I paused, feeling overwhelmed by everything I was seeing and learning. "Lord," I said, "I've made so many mistakes in my marriage. I've been just as distracted, just as selfish as Derek. Is it too late for us?" Jesus took my hands in his, and I felt such overwhelming love that I started crying again. "Amanda, it's never too late as long as there's still breath in your body. That's why I'm showing you this. I want you to go back and fight for your marriage. I want you to be part of the solution." "But how? What do I do?" "Start simple," he said. "Put your phone away when Derek comes home. Look him in the eyes when he talks. Ask him about his dreams, his fears, his hopes. Really listen to his answers. Pray for him every day, not just for his behavior to change, but for his heart to be blessed." I nodded, feeling hope beginning to stir in my chest. "And pray together," Jesus continued. "Start small if you need to, maybe just 5 minutes before bed. Share one thing you're grateful for and one thing you're worried about. Ask me to help you love each other better. I promise you, I will show up in those moments." He showed me one more scene. It was Derek and me, but different than we'd been in years. We were sitting on our back porch, talking and laughing. My phone was nowhere to be seen. Derek was telling me about something that had happened at work, and I was really listening, asking questions, engaged in his story. "This is possible," Jesus said. "This is what I want for every marriage." I felt a sudden tug, like something was pulling me away from him. "I don't want to go back," I said, panic rising in my voice. "It's so beautiful here, so peaceful. And what if Derek doesn't want to change? What if nothing I do makes a difference?" Jesus smiled that beautiful smile again. "Amanda, your job isn't to change Derek. Your job is to love him well and let me do the rest. Trust me with your marriage. Trust me with your husband's heart." The pulling sensation grew stronger. "Your children need their mother," Jesus said gently. "Derek needs his wife, even if he doesn't know how to show it right now. And I have work for you to do. Other marriages to help heal, other couples to encourage." "Will I remember all of this?" I asked, as the beautiful place began to fade around me. "Every word," he promised. "And whenever you doubt, whenever you feel discouraged, remember that I am always with you. I am for your marriage, not against it. I want to help you rebuild what the enemy has tried to destroy." The last thing I saw was his loving face, and then everything went black. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. The doctors told me I had been clinically dead for 12 minutes. They said it was a miracle that I survived without any brain damage. My heart had stopped completely, they said. They couldn't explain why it started beating again. Derek was sitting beside my bed when I opened my eyes. His face was red and puffy from crying, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Amanda?" he whispered when he saw me looking at him. "Oh God, Amanda, I thought I'd lost you." He grabbed my hand and held it tight. "I'm so sorry," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I've been such a terrible husband. I've taken you for granted, and I almost lost you forever." I squeezed his hand. "Derek, I need to tell you something. Something incredible happened while I was..." Over the next few hours, I told him everything. About meeting Jesus, about what I had seen regarding marriages, about the distractions and the lack of real connection between couples. I expected him to think I was crazy, but he listened to every word. "That explains a lot," he said when I finished. "I feel like we've been living like roommates instead of husband and wife. I can't even remember the last time we had a real conversation." That night, still in the hospital, we talked for hours. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. Derek told me about the pressure he felt at work, about his fear that he wasn't a good enough father or husband. I shared my loneliness, my frustration with our relationship, my dreams for our family's future. When the nurses came to check on me at midnight, they found us holding hands and praying together. We asked God to help us rebuild our marriage, to show us how to love each other better, to protect us from the distractions that had pulled us apart. That was 6 months ago. I won't lie and tell you that everything changed overnight. We've had to work hard to rebuild what we lost, but the difference is incredible. We started small, just like Jesus had told me. Derek began putting his phone in a basket by the front door when he came home from work. I stopped checking social media during family time. We instituted a no screens during dinner rule that the whole family follows. Every evening after the kids go to bed, Derek and I sit on the back porch for at least 20 minutes. Sometimes we talk about our day, sometimes about our dreams, sometimes about our struggles. Sometimes we just sit in comfortable silence, holding hands and watching the stars. We pray together every night now. Not just quick surface prayers, but real conversations with God about our marriage, our children, our fears and hopes. Those moments have become the foundation of our relationship. The change in our kids has been amazing too. Caleb told me last week that he likes how Mum and Dad are friends again. Emma said she feels safer now that we're not fighting all the time. Derek and I started leading a marriage ministry at our church. We share our story with other couples who are struggling, and we've seen several marriages saved from divorce. It's incredible how many couples are dealing with the exact same issues we faced: distraction, lack of connection, forgotten intimacy. I think about that day I died at least once every day. I think about Jesus' words, about the scenes he showed me, about the love in his eyes when he told me that marriage was worth fighting for. I've learned that the enemy really is attacking marriages through distraction. He doesn't need to create big dramatic problems when he can slowly erode love through 1,000 small neglects. But I've also learned that with God's help, any marriage can be restored if both people are willing to do the work. If you're listening to this and your marriage is struggling, I want you to know that there's hope. It might feel too late, too broken, too far gone, but it's not. God specializes in resurrections, bringing dead things back to life. Start small. Put down your phone when your spouse is talking. Ask real questions and listen to the answers. Pray together, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Choose forgiveness over being right. Choose presence over productivity. Your marriage is worth fighting for. Your spouse is worth fighting for. And God is ready to help you rebuild what seems broken beyond repair. I died that day in March, but in many ways, my marriage came back to life too. If God can resurrect a heart that stopped beating for 12 minutes, He can certainly resurrect the love between two people who once promised to cherish each other forever. Don't give up. Your love story isn't over yet.